Korean man who was held hostage by an armed group in Libya is now in safe hands and appears unharmed. Hold your horses. Seoul's trade minister warns against getting too carried away about reports the US will exempt South Korean cars from auto tariffs. She urges people to wait for an official announcement. Plus, goodbye spring, hello summer, another sweltering day in store for South Korea, and it's only mid-May. The mercury is set to soar to 30 degrees Celsius in most areas, so have your sunblock at the ready. Some good news to start the newscast today. South Korea's presidential office says a South Korean man who was abducted by armed militants in Libya last year has been released unharmed. Let's take a look at this morning's announcement.
A 62-year-old South Korean male, identified by his surname Ju, was freed as of Thursday evening Seoul time after being held captive for 315 days. He had been kidnapped at a water plant in Jabal Hassauna by some 10 unidentified armed men on June 6th.
The National Security Chief added that the South Korean government and President Moon sends its special appreciation to the UAE government for helping with the man's safe release, saying President Moon and the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan had agreed to join forces to handle the issue. He added Korea has made continued efforts with allies, including the Libyan government, the US, the UK, France and Italy, to secure the man's release and will do its utmost to prevent similar cases happening again in the future. Now, in response to a recent report that South Korea would be exempt from US auto tariffs, South Korea's trade minister, Yoo Myung-hee, is warning it's too early to predict what will happen, and she's waiting for the official announcement. Minister Yoo says the Trump administration and Congress have positively evaluated the South Korean government's efforts so far, as well as the renegotiated South Korea-US free trade agreement. Flying back to South Korea from the US, Minister Yoo told reporters she once again delivered Seoul's stance to US officials and members of Congress. During her stay, she met with US Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross, Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer, and White House Economic Director Larry Kudlow. President Trump is scheduled to make an official announcement on Saturday local time. An Iranian oil tanker has unloaded cargo at a port in China, making the oil look like it came from Iraq. Now, if confirmed, the violation of US sanctions may deal yet another huge blow to what remains of US-Iran ties and reinvigorate the ongoing tensions between Washington and Beijing. Cha Sang-mi with the details.
Ship tracking data from tracking firm Refinitiv Icon showed a tanker carrying Iranian fuel oil in violation of U.S. sanctions has unloaded the cargo into storage tanks near the Chinese city of Zhoushan. A representative at the oil storage terminal confirmed that the tanker, named Marshall Z, discharged nearly 130,000 tons of Iranian fuel oil, and that the trip began 4 months ago. According to Reuters, Iranian fuel oil managed to dodge U.S. sanctions on petroleum exports by using ship-to-ship transfers, including the Marshall Z, and by forging documents that disguised the cargoes as from Iraq. The Marshall Z, according to ship tracking data, arrived at the Jinran terminal on May 8th, and the cargo was not discharged before reaching the terminal about 30 kilometers south of Zhoushan near Shanghai. The fuel could be stored at Jinran without clearing Chinese customs and officially entering the country, as it offered bonded storage at the terminal. The data showed Marshall Z unloaded the fuel oil on May 12th. This comes less than 2 weeks since the Trump administration stepped up its moves to pressure Iran by ending waivers that granted 8 countries importing limited quantities of Iranian crude oil, including South Korea and China. Cha Sang-mi, Arirang News.
Now, low levels of activity, presumably repair work, has been spotted at North Korea's Sohae satellite launching station. The US-based monitoring website 38 North reported Thursday that construction of new workshops or engineering areas were first observed at the horizontal assembly building at the station in September of last year. Now, they say interior work may be ongoing since the roofs are covered now and they were completed back in April. No new activity has been observed at the engine test stand or the launch pad since March. Now, a report by a top government think tank shows South Korea's economic growth could slow even further in the years to come due to stalled productivity and slowing population growth. Now, Kim Hae-sung with the details.
The Korea Development Institute says that at the current level of productivity, South Korea's average economic growth could slow to 1.7% a year during the next decade. In its report released on Thursday, the KDI said Korea's economic growth slowed from an annual average growth rate of 4.4% in the 2000s to 3% between 2011 and 2018, mainly due to slowing total factor productivity. Total factor productivity reflects how efficiently inputs excluding labor and capital, such as technology, the legal system, and resource distribution, are used in the production process. But total factor productivity's contribution to Korea's GDP growth has more than halved from 1.6 percentage points in the 2000s to 0.7 percentage points between 2011 and 2018. And labor productivity's contribution to GDP growth is forecast to fall from 0.8 percentage points between 2011 and 2018 to 0.2 percentage points in the 2020s due to the shrinking working age population. The think tank said it is critical that industry succeeds in improving productivity through technological innovation and deregulation in the long run to boost total factor productivity rather than short-term measures like an expansionary fiscal policy. If total factor productivity is raised to 1.2 percentage points, the KDI says the contribution of capital productivity can go up and help lift Korea's annual average GDP growth to 2.4% for the 2020s. Kim Hae-sung, Arirang News.
Verizon has started selling the Samsung Galaxy S10 5G in the United States, did so on Thursday. It's the first time a mobile device that supports its new 5G network is out that comes ready out of the box. The latest release follows the Motorola Z3, which also runs 5G technology, but only if you purchase an additional $200 accessory that enables it. Currently, Verizon's 5G is only available in Chicago and Minneapolis, but will be available in 20 American cities by the end of 2019. Sprint says it will begin accepting pre-orders for their first 5G phone, starting on Friday, and will launch it at the end of this month. Now, early this week, the year's earliest heatwave warning was issued for the southwestern city of Gwangju after temperatures there topped 33 degrees Celsius for 2 days in a row. The mercury in Seoul is also hovering around 30 degrees, and we must remember that it's only mid-May. So what does this mean for the coming months? Can we expect another blisteringly hot summer like we had last year? Lee Seung-jae reports.
June is still a couple of weeks away, but already strong sunlight beats down on the streets with heat shimmer rising from the ground. T-shirts, shorts, and sunglasses, along with ice-cold drinks and a handheld fan, have once again become necessities for people in South Korea. With the heat arriving so early, many are concerned about how hot the upcoming summer will be this year.
As soon as I get off the bus, it's very hot. It's impossible to walk around without a fan. Last year was hot, but this time I'm very worried.
While Gwangju already saw its first heatwave warning earlier this week, the entire nation saw temperatures we'd normally expect in July to August. At the peak of the afternoon, road surface temperatures even soared to 50 degrees Celsius in some regions.
I came from Daegu on a school trip, but Seoul is hotter than I expected. I wore cool clothes, but I think it's very hot.
So what's causing this mini heat wave?
The early heat is caused by a combination of strong sunlight, clear skies, and the formation of hot air in China. Westerly winds have brought the heat to South Korea.
While the heat will ease off a touch on Sunday, Watchers say higher temperatures are expected in South Korea in June, with this summer potentially set to be one of the hottest in recent memory. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Now, pathways in forests surrounding 8 royal tombs located in Seoul and Gyeonggi-do province opened to the public on Thursday. In the latest in our series of smartphone reports, our Lee Min-sun took a stroll down one and files this story.
Donggureung, located in Guri, Gyeonggi-do province, is a cluster of Joseon Dynasty royal tombs and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And from Thursday, the pathways in the forest surrounding the largest cluster of royal tombs will be reopened to the public. The Cultural Heritage Administration has reopened the pathways in 8 forests surrounding tombs in Seoul and Gyeonggi-do province, and they will stay open until October 31st. People can take a break from the noise and pollution of the city and enjoy the fresh air while walking through the forest. At the end of the trail in Donggureung is a tree nursery and a shelter for people to rest and read books while enjoying the scenery.
I often come to the tombs because I live nearby. I came to see the forest path on opening day. I like the smell of the forest and the path seemed to be well made.
Some of the original 5 forest pathways have been opened in the past, while 3 entirely new pathways were added in Namyangju and Paju following major maintenance work by the administration. Also, to mark the 10th anniversary of 40 tombs being designated as UNESCO World Heritage Sites, various cultural events like concert and painting contests are scheduled to take place. To access the events, visitors must buy an admission ticket to the royal tombs. Lee Min-sun, Arirang News, Guri.
Now, Seoul's first public second-hand bookstore, Seoul Book BOGO, is holding a special exhibition of magazines from the 1970s to the early 2000s. Some 1,200 magazines that second-hand bookstore owners collected over the decades are on display, including many first issues. Through these magazines from the past, visitors can take a peek at pop culture and the daily lives of people at that time. Many of the magazines on display are also available for purchase, except the ones set aside for conservation. The exhibition runs until May 28th and is open to the public for free. Growing tension between the United States and Iran has led to speculation the Trump administration had devised a plan to deploy as many as 120,000 troops to the Middle East in response to Iran's aggression. As a result, the spotlight has fallen sharply on President Trump's hawkish National Security Advisor, John Bolton. For more on this and other news from around the world, let's turn to our Hongyu. So how important is Bolton's role in the U.S. relationship with Iran?
Well, Mark, reports say John Bolton, President Trump's top foreign policy advisor and national security advisor, was behind the alarming U.S. military posturing in the Middle East over the past 2 weeks. It was reportedly Bolton who gave Trump the final push he needed to withdraw from the Iran nuclear agreement, which at the time was effectively controlling Iran's nuclear activities. Even the former U.S. Secretary of Defense, James Mattis, long known for his hawkish views on Iran, had testified before the Senate Armed Services Committee that Iran was sticking to the nuclear deal. Since pulling out, the Trump administration started imposing new sanctions on Iran, triggering Iran to announce last week that it would start pulling out of parts of the nuclear deal. CNN criticized Bolton, calling him Donald Trump's war whisperer, laying out that Bolton was the one who publicly called out the Venezuelan president Nicolas Maduro and allegedly backing the plot to try to remove him from power. He also advocated for a preemptive war against North Korea a little over a year ago. Recently, however, President Trump, who had been on the same page with Bolton about Iran, has said he's willing to talk to Iran, showing hopeful signs that war can be avoided. Walmart, America's largest retailer, says the Trump administration's tariff hikes on Chinese goods will increase prices for its customers. Walmart's chief financial officer, Brett Biggs, told reporters that they are developing strategies to mitigate cost increases and working with its suppliers to manage prices. The company sources about 1/3 of items from overseas, including from China. President Trump increased tariffs on $200 billion worth of Chinese imports to 25% from 10% last week. The move is widely expected to raise prices on thousands of products, including clothing, furniture, and electronics. The leader of Basque separatist group ETA, Joseon Dynasty, was arrested on Thursday in the French Alps after 17 years on the run. He had been sought by Spanish authorities since November 2002, when he failed to make a court appearance in connection with an attack on a police barrack in the Spanish city of Zaragoza in 1987, which left 11 people dead, including 6 children. The separatist group is also known to have killed more than 800 people in more than 4 decades of violence, with an aim to establish an independent Basque state. The group disbanded in 2018.
Time now for our Life and Info segment, where we focus on information useful for your everyday life. And I think we've all experienced by now running late for work or an appointment that's too far to reach by foot but too close for a bus ride. And a number of so-called micro-mobility platforms are aiming to close this gap. We have our Oh Soo-young, I'm pleased to say, in the studio to discuss some of these solutions. Hello, Soo-young. So we've had these kind of bike sharing things around for quite a while now, but these micro mobility platforms have really exploded in popularity all of a sudden. What changed?
Well, that's right. In recent months, we've seen a sudden boom of smartphone applications that rent out dockless bicycles and electric scooters. And as you mentioned, bike-sharing apps have been around for about 3 years or so, mostly for leisure, a ride by the river, for instance. Now, what's changed in recent months is that the new platforms are optimizing services for commutes and short-distance journeys around the city.
Our service helps reduce commute time substantially and also makes it more enjoyable. Our users mostly use G-bikes for 15 to 20 minutes at a time, although some use it for much longer. The response to our service has been great so far, with the number of users amounting to 20 to 30 times more than what we anticipated.
The biggest advantage they have is that they are dockless. The biggest bicycle sharing platform at the moment is Sohae, which has designated bike stands for rental and return. But with a growing number of bike sharing firms like G-Bike, you can look for an available bicycle near you using GPS, unlock it within seconds, hop on and just be on your way. If you have trouble locating the bike, you can activate a bell to find it. And then once you've reached your destination, you don't have to even look around for a bike stand. You can simply leave it there for someone else to use.
Well, it's nice to see some video of you riding your bike in the park.
I don't know about that, but...
You should have been wearing a helmet, of course, but those bikes don't come with helmets. If you want to be extra safe, you should bring your own bicycle.
Or people steal them if you leave them in
so
the basket.
Be careful you don't get your helmet stolen. But it's very convenient. But let's talk about the price, because that's what most people are interested in hearing about. Does it beat taking what are very reasonably priced buses here in South Korea?
Oh, I would say it definitely does. G-Bike, for instance, it lets you borrow a bicycle for 10 minutes at a time for just 200 won. That's less than 20 cents or 1/5 of the price of a single journey bus fare. So you can, of course, cycle as long as you like without having to extend it. You can simply extend it every 10 minutes just by, you just continue riding it. On the other hand, bike sharing apps we've had before, they require you to actually return the bike and borrow it again if you want to continue using it. So again, these new platforms are becoming much more convenient.
Yeah, like you say, it is more convenient and reasonably priced to use these shared bicycles. Once you've registered, it's pretty easy just to pick up the bike, take it where you want, drop it off, and someone else can start using it as well. Let's talk a bit about electric scooters then, because I've really seen a lot more people zipping around the streets of Seoul on these electric scooters these days. So tell us more about that.
Right, and the launch was very recent actually. Electric scooters, they launched last year in the country on the platform called Kit Going, which lets you borrow a bicycle for just 5 minutes for about 1,000 won. That's less than $1. And they're very useful because you know, it's just so good for commute. You know, it's very compact and it's not even as big or, you know, lumpy as a bicycle. So, yeah.
Scooters have largely been used for leisure, but it's an ideal means of transport in a complex city. It's also eco-friendly. 80% of cars on the road are used by the driver alone. Electric scooters are 100th of their size and also consume 100th the amount of energy without emitting greenhouse gases. The number of users and the level of usage has grown threefold since March 1st.
So it's a bit pricier than renting a dockless bike, but it's way more compact and speedier to get around while beating the traffic, as electric scooters can travel up to 25 kilometers per hour.
That's pretty fast, especially if you're stuck in peak traffic in Seoul. You'd be lucky to get up to 10 kilometers an hour sometimes, of course. But I knew they were quick, but I didn't realize they could go quite that fast.
Right, well, I actually got to have a go, and it takes off quite abruptly as well, so you do really want to be careful. And in fact, it's required by the law to wear a helmet, so you should really make sure you have one with you.
Well, in fact, I hear there have been a number of safety issues regarding these electric scooters. Even though they've only been out a few months, I've had a few close shaves myself.
Well, yes, it's quite funny you say that, actually,
because they sneak up behind you. You can't hear them.
They do. They're like silent assassins.
Yeah.
They're actually not supposed to be on sidewalks or bicycle lanes.
Is that right? So yeah. It's illegal for them to be...
It's actually illegal under the current law.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell them next time.
I see a lawsuit coming up there.
Yeah.
But they're banned currently because they could pose danger to pedestrians and cyclists because they travel very quickly.
They certainly do, yeah.
Right, up to 25 kilometers per hour. So right now, they're currently allowed on roads alongside cars, which means you need to have a driver's license. And platform firms really aren't very happy about this. They're complaining that this restricts usage while and they're trying to develop some insurance packages to actually cover potential accidents. But given this surge in demand recently for micro-mobility services and the very promising outlook on market growth, given the increasing number of single households as well as some environmental concerns, it does look like the government might actually ease some of these regulations. For example, allowing electric scooters to actually go on bicycle lanes and maybe even be used without a driver's license. But of course, we'll have to see about that.
Yeah, well, we would prefer to see more experienced drivers riding these scooters around, and if the city government can make room for bicycle paths, you would assume that they would be able to make room also for these electric scooters so we can walk the sidewalks without fear for our lives. Thank you very much, Soo-young. We do appreciate your report today, and we'll see you again next time.
Thanks, Mark.
Good morning. The early heat wave is here to stay for many of the upper regions. Hongcheon in Gangwon-do and Uiseong in Gyeongsang-do provinces will have highs soaring above 30 degrees Celsius again this afternoon. And Seoul will be just as hot, but it will be cooler in the south as a band of rain moves. Our daily highs will range between 25 and 30 degrees Celsius for major cities, and clouds will cover many southern areas today. Southern provinces and Jeju Island will get good amount of rain starting from Jeju this afternoon. Central regions, however, will have another dry and sunny Friday. But thankfully, Seoul and the capital area could see showers from Sunday afternoon into Monday. Just one more day of unseasonably hot weather today. readings will go down tomorrow, and rain on Sunday will definitely cool things down. And the rain is likely to linger through Monday, and hopefully the amount is enough to ease the dryness in the central parts of the country. That's Korea for you, and here's the international weather for viewers around the world.
That's all we have for now on this Friday morning here in Seoul. Do stay tuned to Arirang. We have our next newscast coming up at noon Korea time with Lee Ji-yoon. But if we don't see you, have a wonderful weekend. Until next time, goodbye.
Planning a self-guided tour in Korea? We'll let you peek at the most beautiful hours from dawn to night in Korea. Come to Incheon, a city whose glistening morning is precious. Gyeonggi-do will make your heart throb. Come visit romantic Gyeongnam. Come to Pyeongchang, Korea's top winter destination. Come to Puyo for a memorable experience of history. Explore Busan, a city of mesmerizing waves and ocean. Visit Jeollabuk-do, a place straight out of a movie. Visit Chungcheongbuk-do, a quintessence of well-being tour. Come to Yeosu, a city with amazing sunset and night sea. Visit Daegu, a city of food and style.
The coup attempt led by opposition leader Juan Guaido has come up short. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro claimed victory over the mutiny and even held a military rally. But with opposition parties and supporters still pressing Maduro to step down and U.S. military intervention emerging as a possibility, the political turmoil is likely to remain in the region. What will be the future of Venezuela? Tune into The Point World Affairs to find out more.
1896, the annals of the Joseon Dynasty were listed in the UNESCO Memory of the World Register. This great heritage is the world's longest historical record that covers the period of a single dynasty. Each page of the annals show the constant efforts made to record history from a truthful and impartial perspective, as well as a devotion through many threats and wars. Let's go see the annals of the Joseon Dynasty, a global cultural heritage. Cartoonist Park Shibek has long been in love with the past and has studied and researched Korean history.